Can Donald Trump be the next three-term US president? Is it all just another one of his jokes to drive the Democrats crazy? Is it a bit of wishful thinking? Or is there a clear chance that the sitting president, Donald Trump, could be on track for a possible third term in office? You can love him or hate him, and headlines like this may be filling your heart with joy or anger. But one thing is certain, this is a topic worthy of a video. Technically, he's not yet even a two-term president, but President Trump and his followers have already been making headlines since he started joking about keeping the presidency beyond 2024.
Normal rules, I'll be out in 2024, so we may have to go for an extra term.
Keep watching to find out if and how President Trump can manage to get more than 2 terms as the President of the United States. Impeachment, the 22nd Amendment, loopholes, FDR, and World War III all come together in this controversial prediction of what's legally possible and what can potentially take place in the next 4 to 8 years. But first, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single video, because a brand new era beyond 2020 is just getting started. Let's get right to it. Can Trump legally run for a third term in 2024? As of now, he can't. It would have been possible before 1951, because back then, the Constitution of the United States didn't impose any restrictions on the number of terms a president could serve. Even without a term limit, since George Washington set the example of stepping down after his second term, most US presidents never went beyond 8 years in office. We say most because there were a couple of oddballs throughout history. One example was Franklin D. Roosevelt, who was elected 4 times to be president. Others tried to follow FDR at attempting a third term, but failed, like Ulysses Grant and Woodrow Wilson, among others, who lost their third-term elections. Now, FDR set a precedent that has our current president thinking of a way to stay in office longer than otherwise allowed. But can this actually happen? The answer is like nothing you would expect, so keep on watching to find out. So, why can't Trump run for president again in 2024? The reason is that the 22nd Amendment, passed in 1947, effectively added a restriction to the time in office for the presidency. The amendment specifically states that no one can be elected president more than twice. It also states that if a person served or acted as president for more than 2 years, for example, like a vice president takes charge after the elected president dies or steps down, then they cannot be elected more than once. So assuming Trump were to win the 2020 election, there's no way that he could legally run for president again in 2024. That's pretty clear, right? So there's no way around that. Or is there? The VP loophole. When we look more closely at the 22nd Amendment, we see that it doesn't allow a president to be elected for a third term. But what if he became president without being elected? Our first thought is, how can this possibly be legal, right? Well, it's actually pretty simple. Remember that the vice president is second in line of succession, so he or she assumes the presidency in the event that the current president dies, steps down, or is removed from office, or is otherwise incapacitated to lead the nation. The vice president effectively turns into the president for the rest of the term.
I'll be president. And I nominate Little Rock as my VP.
So that means I get to be president if you get killed by zombies.
Technically, without having been elected president. That is the loophole. You see, the amendment says you can't be elected for more than 2 terms, but not that you can't be president for more than 2 terms. So Trump could finish his term in January 2025, become VP of a new Republican president, and then step up when the president resigns. The most surprising part is that he could do this as many times as he wants. But is that something Trump or any other president is likely to do? Not really, especially considering that no other former president in history has ever become vice president to another after leaving the Oval Office. Did the impeachment open a back door to extra terms in office? Many of us followed Trump's impeachment proceedings and saw his acquittal in the end. However, Some people have been rambling on about how the impeachment actually nullified his first term as president, so now the 2020 election would be like his first. But because he was never removed from office, it couldn't possibly nullify his first term. Meanwhile, some right-leaning politicians are starting to campaign for the idea that President Trump should get 2 more years in office to make up for all the time he lost due to the impeachment distraction. But don't get all too excited just yet, because there's not a single part of the Constitution that even suggests something like this would be possible. It's wishful thinking at most, at least for now. Can Trump cancel or postpone elections to stay in office after 2024? The short answer, no. He can't even postpone them either, no matter what anyone says on media channels or Twitter. If we were to envision some hypothetical situation in which, for whatever reason, the elections didn't happen on November 2024, that wouldn't change the fact that his term would end on January 20th, 2025 at noon. What about that theory of a wartime president to continue on to a 3rd term or beyond? Franklin D. Roosevelt was actually the only US president in history to be elected not just 2, not 3, but 4 times in a row. Of course, this was before the 22nd Amendment came in full swing. During a national crisis, such as a war, people prefer the experience of a strong, steady leader out of the fear that things could go from bad to worse. This was in part what happened with FDR, who governed during the Great Depression and through World War II. The same happened overseas when the British Parliament extended Winston Churchill's term an extra 5 years. President Trump and his advisors are already applying the campaign message of a wartime president in hope to secure the 2020 re-election amidst the coronavirus pandemic. But what would lead him to a 3rd term beginning in 2024? Most economists agree that we're facing a recession that could be worse than the Great Depression, and coupled with increasing international tensions with China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, unforeseen events could potentially trigger the World War III in the coming years. But even World War III doesn't give Trump any more power to continue the presidency beyond the constitutional limit of 2 terms ending in 2024. So do you think there are other ways in which Trump could work around the 22nd Amendment and go for another re-election in 2024? Share in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell so you don't miss any of our new videos. Thanks for watching.